This video is sponsored by Ubisoft. Welcome back everyone, I'm Nick930, and to celebrate the Assassin's Creed franchise turning 15 this year, and the recent announcement of the upcoming Assassin's Creed Mirage, I wanted to take an in-depth look at where it all began, with the series' very first installment, Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed takes place during the Third Crusade, as a large coalition of European forces led by King Richard I attempts to reclaim the Holy Lands from Saladin and his Muslim armies. The player assumes the role of Altair, a high-ranking member of the Assassin's Order, who, alongside his fellow brothers, wage a proxy war against their longtime enemies, the Templars, over control of ancient precursor artifacts hidden throughout the world. On top of all this, the first Assassin's Creed also introduces players to a separate modern-day storyline, where a young bartender named Desmond Miles is kidnapped by mysterious Abstergo Industries and forced to participate in a series of invasive memory-based experiments via a special device called the Animus. It's a remarkably ambitious narrative, setting up layers of deep conspiracy, fantasy, and interweaving it with a plethora of actual historical events. And it's this unique combination that has continued to make up the backbone of every Assassin's Creed since. Though, while many of the core elements of the story continue to persist, the same can't be said for the gameplay design, that has seen some major shifts in direction over the course of the past 15 years. Even with the series' second entry, many of the features introduced in the original Assassin's Creed were altered to better streamline the flow of the action, sometimes dropping some features in favor of others. So today, we're going to take a step down memory lane and explore what makes the original Assassin's Creed game unique from the many other entries that followed it. But before we get started, I do want to again thank Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. If you want to give this or any other Assassin's Creed game a try, be sure to visit the link that I've provided in the description to the Assassin's Creed 15 website, where you'll find big discounts on Assassin's Creed games and multiple chances to win unique prizes. Each week, they've been celebrating a different Assassin's Creed game with discounts, quizzes, podcasts, and special merchandise, all celebrating the series' 15th anniversary. All this will lead up to the big show this Saturday, where Ubisoft will discuss the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise at their Ubisoft Forward livestream event. You can find more details on this in the link below. Alright, so let's kick things off by first talking about Assassin's Creed unique setting. As I mentioned before, this first game in the series takes place during the Third Crusade, and sees players traverse through the war-torn Holy Land in pursuit of their Templar targets. Locations in the game include cities like Damascus, Acre, and Jerusalem, each with their own iconic landmarks and architectural style. While obviously not as impressive by today's standards, these three cities were quite the technical feat back in 2007, with an unprecedented scale that rivaled even some of the most ambitious open-world games. What's more, these cities are densely populated thanks to a recycling NPC generator that fills the streets with dozens of different characters at any given time. This gives the world of Assassin's Creed an almost true-to-life feel, as crowds of people can be seen shopping at vendors, carrying pots around, or listening in to a nearby town crier. Certain characters can even be found in greater numbers based on the particular district that the player travels through, while buildings and architecture will similarly change with each district, offering different climbing opportunities and challenges to ensure that return visits always feel slightly different. Attached to these three cities are a network of interconnected roadways, referred to on the map as its own separate area called the Kingdom. The Kingdom serves as a sort of rural hub area in the game, with small villages and military encampments spread throughout, and is intended to be traversed using any of the random horses found at either end. Also connected to this is the Assassin's home base, Masyaf Castle, that players will become all too familiar with as they deliver news of their victories to the Assassin's leader Al-Mualim, and hone their skills in the nearby fighting pit. Which brings us to our next topic, Altair's abilities. Assassin's Creed has come a long way in terms of its controls and abilities, and going back to the original really is an eye-opening experience. There's just so many different moves that the developers wanted to make sure that the player had direct control over, and all of that had to be translated to the relatively low input count of a gamepad, resulting in the unique Puppeteer system. With this system, the player's actions can be triggered via corresponding face buttons on the controller. The A button, for example, controls Altair's legs, and therefore will increase his movement speed when walking. The X and B buttons, on the other hand, control his arms, and enable players to draw weapons or gently push NPCs out of the way. And the Y button is tied to his head, and will activate eagle vision to identify important targets. This is then coupled with the high profile trigger, that when pressed will toggle to more aggressive actions like sprinting, jumping, and climbing. This latter action is probably one of Assassin's Creed's most defining features, as Altair can latch on to practically any vertical surface and climb upwards with relative ease, along with some great animation work that shows the character only grabbing onto handholds visible to the player. The parkour mechanics also enable players to dash across wood beams, swing on horizontal bars, and perform the legendary Leap of Faith, where the player will leap off of a high rooftop and land safely in a pile of hay below. By offering such a robust set of maneuvers, each of the cities in the game are turned into a sort of urban playground, with dozens of interconnected pathways providing players with a seemingly infinite number of opportunities to slip away from their pursuers. But for players unafraid of a direct confrontation, Assassin's Creed also offers its own swordplay combat systems, with the ability to strike, combo, block, and counter, all accompanied by some brutal finisher animations. Unlike the later games, the original Assassin's Creed limits the player to only a handful of signature weapons, each of which will be unlocked by progressing further in the story. There's Altair's standard longsword, useful for dealing high damage against more powerful enemies. The short blade, that trades out power for speed. Throwing knives that are limited but can kill weaker enemies with a single blow. And most memorable of all, the hidden blade, the assassin's signature weapon. While the hidden blade doesn't serve much of a practical purpose during combat, it is a crucial tool when operating in the shadows. With it, players can strike their targets unseen and slip away into the crowd before anyone notices. Accompanying this is a series of distinctive awareness states for the city's guards that will detect socially unacceptable behavior and use it to link players to a nearby crime. To avoid detection then, players are encouraged to blend in with the crowd and can sit on benches, hide in hay piles or rooftop huts, and even pretend to be a scholar and slip straight through a fortified position. Altogether, the original Assassin's Creed offers a surprisingly rich set of core abilities and mechanics to play around with, mixing combat, stealth, and platforming together, and giving players plenty of choices in how they approach each situation. Which brings us to our next topic, the mission design. The first Assassin's Creed takes a very straightforward approach to its mission design and its structure. Following its lengthy tutorial sequences, Assassin's Creed sets players loose in the world, and challenges them with taking down 9 different targets, one for each district in each of the 3 main cities. To track these targets down though, players must first learn more about their quarry, by completing various investigation missions throughout their respective district. Investigation missions include things like eavesdropping on specific conversations, pickpocketing important documents, or interrogating an affiliate. The Brotherhood will also assist throughout this investigation period, and will exchange information for favors like escorting them through the city, collecting flags within a time limit, or eliminating nearby enemies stealthily. Once enough information has been gathered, players can then visit the local Assassin's Bureau to report their findings, and are then given permission to use what they've learned to attempt an assassination. The assassination missions are easily the most challenging missions in the game, as the targets are typically well protected, requiring a combination of deception and agility in order to close the gap. Once the target's been neutralized, a city-wide chase will begin, putting every guard in the area on high alert, and requiring players to use every tool at their disposal to escape. These are some of the most exhilarating moments in the entire game, and because the action isn't quite as scripted as the later entries, each of these missions feels more rewarding as a result. In between these high-stake takedowns, players are also given a few optional activities to participate in, most of which help to make traversing through the city a bit easier. Climbing up large viewpoints and synchronizing, for example, will reveal a previously hidden portion of the map, along with any mission objectives nearby. Rescuing citizens from soldiers, on the other hand, will introduce useful groups of NPCs into the connecting street, like vigilantes that will block pursuing soldiers, or scholars to blend in with. Players can also collect many flags hidden all throughout the game world, and challenge powerful Templar knights to duels, both of which will contribute to a sync bar progression that, when filled, will increase the player's max health. All in all, it's a fairly straightforward open world experience. There's no economy, no storefronts to shop at, no random minigames to play, and Altair, for whatever reason, was never trained to swim, making water an even more deadly foe than the Templars. But this also makes the first Assassin's Creed game one of the single most focused entries in the entire series. Every task that the player accomplishes will help make assassinating a target easier, either by learning about key opportunities to strike, or by introducing additional variables to help escape. Either way, the focus remains solely on the assassination, and it's for this reason that the original Assassin's Creed, even with all of its faults, still manages to hold up 15 years later. But what do you guys think? Did you enjoy the original Assassin's Creed? And what aspects of it would you like to see return with Assassin's Creed Mirage? Let me know in the comments section. Also, once again, I'd like to thank Ubisoft for sponsoring this video. If you haven't had a chance to play the original Assassin's Creed before and want to give it a try, you can pick up the game now for 70% off using the link that I've provided in the description. They're also offering several other big discounts on AC games, along with quizzes, giveaways, podcasts, and other special deals to celebrate the series' 15th anniversary. So be sure to check it out, and tune in this Saturday for the Ubisoft Forward livestream event, where they plan on providing updates on the future of the Assassin's Creed franchise. And as always, be sure to like and subscribe for more content posted here every week.